All right, so it's Todd Atkins, and I'm here again with Miguel Adorati and Mike Davis of Lights Out podcast. And this is another episode of the MMA Conspiracy Hour. And we're going to be discussing the controversial decision between Sean O'Malley and Petr Yan from UFC 280. And I'm going to let Miguel start out.
Well, anybody watching UFC this weekend, we were up early. It's from Abu Dhabi, and we're watching a fight. Obviously, one of the most anticipated fights, Sean O'Malley and Petr Yan. And most people I watched it with felt the judges got it wrong. I guess that's the general buzz across. I thought it was a close fight. Looking at it a little further, the judges had, but all three judges had round 2 for Yan, round 3 for O'Malley, and 2 of the judges had O'Malley winning the first round, and one judge the other, and that's how you get to what you got. Does the in what ways is this a conspiracy? Why would the UFC want this? Obviously, because O'Malley's been their pet project for years now. Literally for since they've been bringing him along for a long time. And you can't, take chances at some point. So that's what you may have here. I feel bad for Yan. Yan's a guy that, he won the title, kind of lost it. And now, now he's sitting on a 2-fight losing streak. Yan's not in the title picture anymore.
No, I think the issue that a lot of people are having is that they're not watching it round by round. And it was actually a very close fight. That first round, first off, I buy all of my pay-per-views, no streaming on my end. And that's the honest to God truth. Like, that's not sarcasm. So when I bought the pay-per-view, at the end of the first round, granted there was a big slam in it, but O'Malley jumped right back up. You saw O'Malley kind of do a duck under in the closing seconds. And I audibly said to the guest that I had, I think O'Malley may have stole that first round. Second round, plain as day, Petr Yan. Third round, incredibly close. I thought O'Malley won. I mean, I love the conspiracies, but I honestly think that O'Malley was given the right decision.
But I mean, when you're looking at from fighters to other people in the industry, almost overwhelmingly, they all feel that Yan won the fight. So why do you think that O'Malley got the decision?
I think Yan won the fight, but I think O'Malley won the scorecards. I mean, I think that's what it comes down to. But Todd, in our prep for this, you brought up another issue here, Todd, why do you think that there may be a conspiracy in regards to this?
Well, I think the UFC probably had a hand in not the fight being rigged. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, if the fight was close and it went to decision, O'Malley was going to be the victor, period. And I think that's how it played out. Most people didn't feel he won, but somehow he won. And I think who does the UFC benefit more from winning, O'Malley or Yan? O'Malley. And even Teddy Atlas said it was good business for Yan to win the fight because McGregor's not around, Jones isn't around.
You mean O'Malley to win the fight?
Yeah, okay. For O'Malley to win the fight. I'm sorry, yeah. Because McGregor's not around, Jones not around, et cetera, which we talked about before.
So, Miguel, you have brought up, let's talk about the horsemen, the people that really move the needle on pay-per-view sales. Conor McGregor, John Jones, being 1 and 2. Israel Adesanya is kind of getting there, but he's not there yet. It's kind of surprising to me. But both of those two, they're not anywhere near active right now. In fact, Conor's not even in the testing pool and needs 6 months of testing before he's even allowed to fight again. Didn't retire, but not in a testing pool. It's kind of a weird limbo thing that no one's ever talked about, which is strange. But I think right now O'Malley is moving the needle. Miguel, would you agree with that?
Yeah, they pinpointed him as a person. He's a young person, so they may say, that's the first guy from that generation of fighters that might break through. That's how I would think of things. In terms of, McGregor's now in his mid-30s when he gets back. Jones got to be pushing that. And at that point, you do have to have an escape plan. And O'Malley's looked like that escape plan for a long time, and they look like, some of the matchmaking has been soft and stuff like that. So they've been sort of bringing him along and coddling him. I think Petr Yan was a way to kind of whitewash that all at once, try, really test him. And, at the end of the day, I don't know, yeah, I think they benefited that O'Malley won, that they like that O'Malley won and stuff like that. I don't know that they had to prep the judges or anything like that rather than just create the atmosphere. The fact is I without really knowing the judges, the credentials of judges and judges, the system of judging and things like that we don't know about, it all becomes very suspect and very interesting. I can tell you this, like, for example, when Mayweather boxed, every ref wants to do that fight because it means that you get a percentage of the purses and you get a big check. And if the UFC is distributing bonuses to employees, as well, hey, we did great this last pay-per-view or this last show, the last Conor McGregor show, and everybody gets a couple $100 extra, even the little guys at the UFC stuff, even the judges that are guests and things like that. Everybody gets a little bonus. You've just laid the groundwork for how this can happen without anybody saying anything.
Yeah, no, for sure. But O'Malley, I think we can all agree, is now kind of moved into a position where he's going to be getting like eyes on him. I mean, John Jones, as we've discussed, until he's run out of money and he's broke from whatever addiction he's battling, he's not going to fight again. So, I mean, you guys just got to completely take him out of the picture. You got McGregor. McGregor looks like he's nowhere near fight shape. So this is who they're relying on. I mean, do the Russians move the needle? Yeah, they do, but really not in this country.
Yeah, and world politics could very well, dictate and change that. I don't know, conspiracy or not, whatever that was in play was also in play. Very interesting what would have happened going to the judges in the last fight. I mean, Makhachev's style is very much one that leaves very little questions and stuff. But again, hey, he was trying submissions, and you get like I said, I don't know that it benefits the UFC. They may want to. They may have a lot of business deals and be making a lot of money there, but I don't know that they're going to be capable of carrying such a heavy Russian roster in the next few years if world politics goes, in a certain direction. And that's, something we can't all dictate. I don't know, but I could see a ban on all Russian athletes and stuff. Then they say, yeah, we'll just go to Abu Dhabi like they recently did and stuff.
Yeah, that pelt's not leaving there.
That stuff, that really doesn't benefit the UFC, is to have, Makhachev as a champion that as a lightweight champion that you can no longer feature in the United States. I doubt he will be eligible for a visa, even though, he's definitely coming over to work and, everything else can be controlled. But I don't know that his visa is not going to be subject to a lot of questions next time. So you can't use the lightweight champion.
No, but that's yeah. So we eliminate him. Yeah, we're talking about O'Malley, but I think O'Malley's going to be carrying the flag.
No, as former promoter and matchmaker, both of you are. When I made this discussion on some of my other platforms, people were saying, well, the UFC has no affiliation with these judges. Can you kind of correct them on that?
Todd, anybody that says that absolutely has no idea what they're talking about. Like, you're wasting your time having a conversation with something like that comes out of their mouth. There is no universal sanctioning body in Brazil or in Abu Dhabi. They fly their judges in. I know a few judges that got flown in. Now, I haven't asked them about the protocol or anything of that nature in regards to it. I've just never breached the conversation. But they absolutely fly judges in. Miguel, what are the judges' names for this last card?
Yeah, give me a second here to look it up.
Shit, right in front of you.
Yeah, and I shut down my PC, Mike.
I'm sorry, dude. The fuck, I read all my stuff.
But I would
down.
assume they pay for their hotel, their food, and that stuff as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and they get a per diem. They could probably keep it cheap, but at the same time, on the official scale, I think the actual paperwork of the commission say, here's the judges. If they're licensed, say, in Nevada, and they're being offered a gig in a certain area, they get paid like $200 if they go more than 500 miles from home, $300 for a certain, like it's done that. So they might get a nice check for flying halfway around the world and stuff. It's a coveted gig. Definitely a coveted gig.
Yes.
And that's the situation there. So there are little ways of rewarding people, and that's one of them, is to bring them in to a location like that that they want to go to, and it adds to their resume, et cetera, et cetera.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, people think that I'm accusing the UFC of walking up to people and giving them some money right before the decision. It's not what I'm saying.
No.
The UFC can sway judges long before that.
So I got the info real quick. Ben Cartledge, David.
Okay, wait. Ben Cartledge. Does that sound Arab? No. Go ahead, Miguel. Next name.
David Leatherby.
David Leatherby. Okay, sounds like he might be from here or Europe. Okay.
Or could be Jewish, but
Could be Jewish. It's true.
Vito Paulillo
sounds Brazilian, Italian, Brazilian,
Italian, something like that. Anyway, the point is like I did a little more research on Paulillo's the guy that had the first round for Yan. So Paulillo is a guy that he's the youngest. He's been a judge only since 2020.
Wait. So 2020 was the first time he's a judge, and he's already in a world title fight. There's judges that go 20 years without ever having that ability. I'd say 95% of judges never even get that ability to judge a world title fight in boxing or mixed martial arts. This guy's been doing it for 2. That's called, like Ariel Helwani, given a position. He was given a position of power, never put the work in on the regional scene. Go ahead, Miguel. Sorry.
And the other guys seem to have more experience, but they both saw round 1 for O'Malley. Like I said, everything else in round 2, everybody saw that one for Yan, and in round 3, all the judges saw that one for O'Malley. Okay. So, how's this slant done? Like I said, so they're around. These guys are not UFC employees. Like they don't, present the UFC ID card at the doctor because they have to have separate insurance and they get compensated this, that, and the other thing. But they're around, and they want to be a part of this. They all list. They're like David Leatherby's got a LinkedIn thing there. It's an international MMA judge and scorer, as well as a reporter and photographer. So before that, was he a reporter photographer? That's open to further inspection. I don't know, but I can tell you that's what his LinkedIn said. So all they have to do. The thing is how careful is Dana, because all Dana has to do is be talking to people and say, man, we'd be better off than, if O'Malley won. And then that seed has been planted. And then you just let it germinate. You don't even have to say another word. Most people in that organization are looking to bend over backwards to please upper management. We've known that for 2 decades now. It's a very top-heavy decision-making company. And that's all you need. So, I'm with Todd that this is a bad time for a bad decision, and O'Malley could have lost this fight. In a purely sportive way, O'Malley could have lost this fight and still come out a winner, kind of thing. But he looked good. People want to see him anyway, even if he had taken a loss. But the UFC doesn't work that way. The UFC would treat him bad. They pay him half. They use that in their negotiations with him next time. So O'Malley pleases the judges. This is something for future opponents to make a mental note of.
Right. So Miguel said a lot right there, Todd. Now, Miguel and I have been working together since like 2002, 2003. When I knew I was one of Miguel's guys was when he was flying me to Russia to help out at events, which included judging. That's when I knew I was one of Miguel's guys. So it is a coveted spot. You get paid per day. Miguel, you didn't do that with me, but I got a free trip. But UFC absolutely would. If you've got a guy that's been judging since 2020, he doesn't even have the chops to be going to the UFC yet, let alone judging a world title fight or even a contender. This wasn't a world title fight, but I think they kept the same judges for the next bout, which was a world title fight, which is where I kind of came in at. He doesn't deserve to be there. He hasn't put his time in. He knows somebody.
The other thing I thought Miguel made a good point of, and I don't want to look like I'm trying to take anything away from O'Malley. He fought well.
No, I thought it was a hard fight.
in a way, I think I agree with what Miguel just said. Had he got what he deserved, which was a loss, I think he could have come out better even, because in a way, I think you can grow more from a loss. Someone like him, who already has a big opinion of himself. And also, I think in the fans' eyes, most of whom thought he lost,
Well,
they'd
even
have more
his eyes,
respect
Todd.
that he got the L, you know?
Did you listen to his post-fight speech? He even said he was like kind of puzzled by it and said he had to go to places that he's never been to before. He learned a lot. Like his post-fight speech is one of the most mature Sean O'Malley things that I have ever heard. And what's unfortunate is TJ Dillashaw gets like the whole cheating thing, and he doesn't. He took a year suspension, for something more egregious than EPO. Well, they're both pretty bad. So, but at the end of the day, dude, I thought O'Malley, I think he looked good. I thought he was humble in a win. I think even he knows he was probably gifted a decision, but I thought he lost the fight, but won the scorecards. That's my honest opinion. But
yeah, I
there's
don't
a lot of
want
moving
it to
parts.
seem like I'm trying to short him as far as how he performed. He fought really well, and I think in a lot of ways he probably surprised a lot of people who maybe thought he wasn't going to fight anywhere close to as well as he did.
I agree.
But I think had he taken the L, the fans and other people who thought he's getting preferential treatment would say, okay, he's not. He had a good fight. He didn't get the preferential treatment here. He got the loss he deserved. Good. But because he got the win, I think it's going to leave a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, even though he performed well.
That's possible. But that was a huge step up in competition. Prior to this, Chito Vera was his toughest fight, which was actually pretty one-sided with O'Malley winning until he got like an injury with his foot. But this is a huge step up. Props to him. Like I've enjoyed his fights, and I think he's on the verge of headlining a card. He's right there. I think the UFC's
I think he could headline the card in his next fight.
If it's a title fight, obviously he's there. But like one of those UFC fight nights, he could definitely pull.
If it was a rematch of Chito Vera or even Yan, who they could do again, that could headline a ESPN card like you're talking about it.
Absolutely.
Fight night.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
Yeah. I tune in.
And that's another thing. A lot of times when we see in boxing, when we see these decisions that are suspect, what do they do it for? So they can do the immediate rematch, so they can get another fight out of the two people.
And Todd, to the UFC's credit in regards to like corrupt judging, Adelaide Bird, who is a renowned corrupt judge in Vegas, was dipping her beak into the MMA world, and the UFC quickly put an end to that. Cecil Peoples as well. I'm not saying he was corrupt. I think he was just more inept. In regards to, if people say, well, the UFC can't do it, they can't corrupt judges. Well, they have put ends to careers of judges and referees. So if you can end a career, it also means you can also start a career.
Yeah, they got rid of Yamazaki. They got rid of
Here, I'll tell you another one.
Mazzagatti.
That they're not talking about is Dan Miragliotta. Dan Miragliotta is doing BKFC. He's doing all of them. He says, yeah, the UFC. I mean, I've heard off the record that UFC won't touch him because of his involvement with BKFC.
Yeah, so I think people that don't think judges can be swayed,
they don't know what they're talking
the
about.
UFC's influence are very naive.
Todd, this is what you got to do. Just drop and go. You can't. You're never going to convince a moron that they're not stupid. You just got to kind of let it ride. That's why I post very rarely on my Instagram and on message boards. It's just I'm just going to get in an argument with a freaking moron, and it's, you know what I mean? It's just not even worth it, dude.
Yeah, it's better to just put the video there and leave and let them argue on it.
Dude. Yeah. So, Todd, why don't we take this bad boy home?
So again, this is another episode of the MMA Conspiracy Hour, and appreciate everybody tuning in. Until next time, take care.
Great job, Miguel.